Welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be covering the 3 steps to creating our wow photo. Now, I know what you're thinking, there's a lot more than 3, Mike. There is. I mean, when you start talking about composition stacking, then you can incorporate a dozen different composition techniques. So this is basically just 3 steps to creating, and I'm going to try and simplify it as much as I can, just 3 steps to creating that wow, that impactful, engaging photo. So let's get into it. So the big question is this: how do smartphone photo enthusiasts like us become that creative and confident photographer we desire and deserve to be, creating those beautiful, impactful photos? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Mike, and welcome to the Smartphone Photography Club. All right, so remember, if you're listening to this on the podcast, you can catch the visual side of it on YouTube, so I'm in there as well. So if you can, it'd be great to leave a review or a comment. Subscribe if you're on YouTube. Remember that bell, hit that bell, because that helps me shape the direction of this podcast. So I want to create this so that it's relevant and specific just for you. So that sort of feedback is vital and very, very much appreciated. So let's get into it. So what are the 3 steps? So here they are basically is attention, intention, composition. That's what I'm going to cover today. So grabbing the attention of the audience, the viewer, thinking about what the photographic intention is, and then structuring it, setting it up through composition. So it is attention, intention, composition. Pretty cool, they all rhyme, isn't it? So anyway, so let's get into it. So I've actually written an article on this. I'll bring it up on the screen for us so we can have a look, and I'll explain it to you on the podcast as well. All right, 3 steps. Now, basically, the first one is attention. So what is it that grabs people's attention? Now, when we're talking about an audience or a viewer of your photo, this doesn't have to be, we're just photo enthusiasts. This doesn't have to be, okay, my photo is going to end up in a gallery. That's going to be the audience as a gallery, or I'm trying to sell this. This is just photos for yourself or your family, friends, socials. You want to share it there. It can even be just for yourself. So if you've taken holiday photos, travel, family events, just life events, then understanding all these principles and techniques are there for you as well. So looking back at photos 10 years time, go, oh, that's why I took that photo. That's so cool. That was what and it helps you remember things. And that's one of the beautiful things about photography and photos is that it's a snapshot in time. It's storytelling. And the only thing that beats it is video. But anyway, this is the Smartphone Photography Club, not the video club. But I'm a strong advocate for video as well. So the first one, attention. So grab your viewer's attention. So there's lots of different things. So if you imagine scrolling through your Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media or whatever it is, or even just websites and ads, that sort of thing on billboards, what is it that grabs your focus? Because I can't remember the figure now, but we get exposed to thousands of ads every day as we're driving. Even driving, looking at the car in front of you, you see the emblem, you see the Ford or the Chevrolet, Mercedes, you see all these different badges, and that's advertising. So we see thousands of messages every day. And photography, it's so popular nowadays. And if you want photos to stand out, then grabbing the viewer's attention is the first thing. So there's different ways of doing it, attracting people's attention, and a lot of this is built into our brain, like a survival instinct, like movement. If something moves in front of you, it grabs your attention. Oh, what was that? And we've all done that, haven't we? So that's one, is movement. Bright and vivid colors. So if you're looking at so if you've got an overcast day and there's something bright in front of you, bang, your attention goes to it. So if you're driving in the fog and somebody's got their fog light on, so that bright red light, tail light, is what grabs your attention straight away. Contrast, and even in black and white photos, there's contrast. For me, learning the process of capturing and editing contrast, which is, now how can I explain this really succinctly? Contrast is the difference between 2 things, all right? So if we've got a black and white photo, strong contrast is a photo that has really deep blacks and really bright whites. Low contrast is where you have a lot of grey in there. So there's not dark, there's light blacks and there's off whites. So then you have these variations of grey. That is a low contrast. High contrast is where you have deep blacks, bright whites. I think that, yeah, so there we go. So contrast, so having contrast, something in there that goes, oh, that lunges out in front of in the photo and makes it really pop and stand out. Very sharp, incredible detail. And I have a whole course on that, blurry to tack sharp photos, the 4-step system. It's fantastic, hugely popular. It's my best-selling web class and course because it's so important. I mean, it's really, you don't need to upgrade your phone. If you can create those incredible sharp details, you don't need a new phone, you don't need to buy the best, most expensive lenses. And because it grabs attention, it's so important because a photo where that's, because our smartphones have to make compromises all the time. They're getting better and better with machine learning and AI, they call it AI, but basically where it assesses the photo and goes, okay, there's sky, we don't need to sharpen the sky because you don't want pixelated sharpened sky, but there's some texture in the foreground, and our phones now automatically go and apply, a lot of them go and apply sharpening there, and that's what it grabs attention. Now if you're in photographic intention for that photo is not to have that sand sharp and textured, you want the rocks sharp and textured, that's where you want to direct the person's attention. So we're grabbing their attention with that incredible sharp details. Extreme close-ups, so if you're scrolling through social media and they go, oh, there's a photo that's zoomed right in, filling the frame, it's a compositional technique, fill the frame. So an extreme close-up. As one of the things I love is macro photography, because creating those photos that people can't believe is taken on the smartphone. I love doing those. A dominant color, so having I'm not talking about selective color where you make a black and white and then you make certain colors just pop, and that used to be a fad for weddings for a long time, black and white, and then you make the bouquet flowers, the colors, and you just have it there. What I'm talking about there, a dominant color, and that attracts attention. That's fantastic. So that fits the criteria of what we're talking about. But a dominant color is a majority of the photo being one of those strong colors like red, or if it's a soft pastel color, so you might have pink and a nice color color cast. That's what I'm trying to say. Having a dominant color is a really good way of grabbing attention. And for businesses, they might actually have a filter or a color cast intentionally used on every single photo and using that dominant color as a branding. Okay, different angles, perspective. We've talked about that before, capturing from a really low angle or something like that where people go, oh, I've never seen it from that angle, is a great way of grabbing attention. An upside down photo. I know that sounds weird, but every now and again in your social media, if you just throw in an upside down photo, and even if they're looking at your profile on Instagram, they're scrolling through your gallery and go, oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, what's that? So you can grab people's attention. Something that has strong emotional connection as well is something that can grab people's attention. So hands, photos of hands. One of my favorite photos that I've ever taken was my wife was in ICU, intensive care unit, after our youngest was born, and was separated from, they had to be separated for a while, and when the moment and the day they were brought together, it was a beautiful thing, and I managed to capture this photo of my son holding my wife's finger, and there you could see the IV drip in her hand and all that. So that one photo just captured the whole story, all the highs, lows, was all captured in that, and it was a strong emotional connection because, yeah, it's something that brings up a lot of emotions in people. So that's how you grab people's attention. And one I don't have in the article here is one I discovered recently. Is a local real estate agent here. Their first photo in all their property listings is a black and white photo. So when you're going through something, a website, realestate.com.au here in Australia is the main real estate website, scrolling through, and then all of a sudden there's a black and white photo. And you go, oh, that's a such and such agency. So yeah, grabbing people's attention. All right, number 2, intention. So you want to clearly communicate what the story is, what the motivation was for you taking the photo. And that's a whole nother podcast, isn't it? Talking about intention, photographic intention and storytelling, because it's one that I really struggle with, is understanding, getting into landscape photography. It's like, what's the story here? There's no story. There's no story in this flower. It's just a flower. But understanding the intention. Why did I take a photo of that flower instead of that flower? Was it the color? Was it the shape? Was it the tones, the textures, the lines, all these sort of things? You go, okay, well, that's why I picked that photo to take a photo of. That's my intention, is to highlight that in the photo. So that leads me to the next one, which is composition. So knowing what our intention is in the photo, next we need to structure the structure of the frame, set up things, get the right angle, get the right background, get the right lighting, all these things, set it up in a way that we make that hero of the photo, that intention, to really stand out. Sometimes you might not have a main subject. Sometimes the intention might be, wow, this is a really cool pattern here. So then the compositional technique there is repetition or something like that, where there's not one single thing that you need to place off center and be rule of thirds and all that sort of thing. It could be that I just love the rust on this boat, so you just go and take a photo of the rust. So then you set up the composition so that the rust really stands out. So you might capture it from an angle so that on the left side of the screen is really detailed, strong texture of the rust, and then it fades and goes out of focus. So then you have that selective focus. These are compositional techniques. So yeah, there's composition everywhere, and that's where you make it that you take it to that next level of engagement. So I covered their rule of thirds, just going through there. Symmetry is another great compositional technique I've put in here, leading lines, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that's basically it, the 3 steps. And it's kind of like a pre-photo checklist that you go through in your mind, and you go, okay, how am I going to grab people's attention with this photo? And that might not be an objective. That's only if you are right into social media sharing and you want to gain followers and that sort of thing. That's the number 1 tip is, okay, how do I get attention? How do I get noticed? What's unique about this photo? How do I separate it from everyone else? If that's not you, don't worry about that. But the next 2 are vital to transition from snapshots to those creative shots, and that is intention. What is the photographic intention? And then what is the composition? How do you set up the photo? Now I covered this briefly, well not briefly, but I covered this in the first few days of my 14-day photo creativity challenge, and it's a great way. 14 days, it's not a long challenge, not like a 365-day challenge where you get 2 months into it and then you feel really guilty because you've missed days and you're falling behind. 14 days is manageable. In the first few days, I cover exactly these sort of topics in intention, composition. So yes, if you want to get involved in that challenge, it has its own Facebook group, and because of the Facebook group, I've discounted the price because I want to try and get as many of you in there and communicating and helping each other out, that social learning and inspiring each other, that sort of thing. So it's smartphonephotographytraining.com/PCC. So photographic creativity challenge, PCC/PCC. Hope to see you in there. Yeah, $49 now, $9 Australian, $7 US. It's a great way to get involved and really, and as you can tell, once you start implementing these simple techniques in a structured way, your photos are just going to skyrocket and take off, and you're going to just get so much more fulfillment and enjoyment. And that's what we love about photography, isn't it? We want to get those, we want to experience that with our existing devices. So thanks for joining me, and I will catch you in the next episode.